For today, our main task is not actually necessarily a very long one. The code is fairly simple, but it's more about how we perceive the colors and trying to create something that demonstrates the concept that colors can look different depending on what's around them, even if the colors themselves are the same. So I'm going to do this with SVG once again, and I'm going to do it in Replit. So I have Replit already open. If you don't have Replit open, you can just open, a new tab, and you can go to Google, right? And searching for Google on Google, you can type Replit and HTML, and you're looking for this one here, this HTML, CSS, JS, online compiler, whatever. If you are logged in, like I showed a moment ago, right from here, you can also just press the plus button that you have in the top right. And if you've been using this quite a bit, you might already have this as a favorite. If not, you can just type in HTML. And I'm going to call mine relative colors. Once I have my HTML file open, I can go ahead and just start editing, right? I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see better what I'm doing. Make this a little bit smaller, right? So the area that I'm working is between these two body tags, right? I have this JavaScript element. I don't need it. I can leave it. I can delete it. I'm going to delete it just for simplicity. And then here, I'm going to start my SVG element. So I'm going to open the SVG element with an SVG tag, and then I will also put the closing tag, right? So now I have a completed SVG element, and now I can actually start writing the code. So what I'm wanting to create is basically two large rectangles, right, with two smaller rectangles in them. And the idea of this concept is that I'm going to use 3 different colors, and I'm going to try to make it look like there's 4 different colors based on what color is surrounding the smaller rectangles. So there'll be one large color, a second large color, and then a third color of the 2 smaller rectangles inside of those. So first I need a large rectangle, right? So I'm going to start with the rectangle element, and then I need an X and a Y, and they're going to start in the top left corner. So that's 0 for the X and 0 for the Y, and then I need a width and a height. For these, I do want it to be fairly large, so I think I'm going to do like the width as 250. I think I'll do the height as 350, so that way they are rectangles and not squares. And if I run this, let's take a look. Okay, so the width looks okay. Obviously the height is not correct, and that's because the default size for the SVG is shorter than my rectangle. So I need to add in a width here, and it needs to be, oops, sorry, the width is fine. I need to add in a height here, and that needs to be 350 to match the height I have there. If I run it, okay, we're good. Okay, I'm going to add in a fill because I'm not going to use black, and for simplicity I'm just going to go with red because that's an easy one, right? If I run it, there we go. And then here I'm just going to make a copy because I'm happy with the size, and now I need to change where it loads, right? I want the next rectangle to load here. If I change this color, I'm just going to change it to green, and I run this, my red one is gone. I still have my red one, it's just underneath, so I need to move this green one over. If the width of this is 250, then the amount I need to move it is 250, right? So that way it's not on top of the other one. Y coordinate is vertical, X is horizontal, right? So that means on the X axis I need to make it the value of that width, right? So move over 250, move over the width of this rectangle. So if I do 250, let's try it. Okay, it did move, but now it's being chopped off because my width is not wide enough. So now I need to add in the width of my SVG element. And if this is 250 and this is 250, then it needs to be 500, right? So that way it can show everything. So I'll run this. Okay, that looks good. Now I need the little square in the middle, or the little rectangle in the middle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste another one of these. I think I'll grab this one. And I'm going to make this one, I'm going to go with yellow because that's easy to make too, right? So if I want it to be in the middle of 250 would be 125, right? Like if I run this right now, it should start in the middle. So I'll go ahead and run it. Right now I've got this big yellow in the middle, right? I don't want it that huge. So I want it, I think, maybe 50 wide. So the width is going to be 50, right? Now it's, ooh, what happened? There we go, okay. It just bugged for a minute. Now this is not center. The starting is center, but because it extends from there, it's not center. So to make the center 50, if I cut that in half, is 25, right? So if I minus 25 from here to start at 100, then it should go from 100 to 150, which means that there's 100 on each side, right? Plus the 50 give us that total width of 250. Hopefully that makes sense. So if I run this now, we have it right in the center, right? Now it's too tall. So once again, I need to think about where that would start. If it's 350 tall, half of that is 175. Now, same issue, it would start at the middle point. So I want it to start a little bit less than that. I think I want it to be a rectangle still, so I want it to be, I think I'm going to go with 100 tall instead of 50 tall. And so if I want half of it to be above the center point and half of it to be below the center point, right, that's 50 on each side, then this needs to be 175 minus 50, which would be 125. I think that looks good. I'm happy with the proportions of my shape, so now I just need another one over here. So instead of doing all the math again, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it, and then all I need to do is figure out how to get it to go over here, right? Now this big giant green square rectangle is the same as this one, right? It's just green and it's 250 over, right? I added 250 to the X value. So if I do the same thing to my copy here, I just add 250 to it, that should put this in the same place inside of that green rectangle, right? I'm moving this over 250, right? That should put it right in the middle. So if I try 350, let's see if my hypothesis is correct. And it is. So this is what we're making. Now, the code is not very complex. The part that's important is looking at our two colors and deciding if we perceive this color as different from this color. So the idea is, can we create the perception of 4 different colors using only 3? So red, green, yellow, the exact same shade of yellow, not different shades. And do we perceive it differently? And I think, even though for my quick example I just randomly chose colors, I think we do. This to me feels a little greenish actually. It doesn't feel like a really strong yellow. It feels like a little bit like a paler yellow that's a little bit of green in there. Whereas this to me feels like a more bright and vibrant yellow. It feels like a stronger yellow than this one does. So I think it works for me. Now if you have this too small, it can be hard to perceive a difference sometimes. So make sure that when you're looking that it's basically filling your screen, so that way more of the surrounding area is large enough to actually sort of affect the way you're perceiving it. So once you're happy with yours and you feel like you have 4 different perceptions of color using only 3 actual shades of color, then you're done.